Sri Vasudevanand Saraswati, Chapter 2. His Lineage. Konkan is a lovely region of Maharashtra. It is a paradise on the earth, as it were. Nature abounds in wealth of the variety of fruits and flowers, and the region is blessed with the vicinity of the Arabian Sea. Konkan has been the cradle of many a soul of intellectual and spiritual luster which have made their mark on the cultural, religious, and historical life of India. Ratnagiri district has given to India great souls like Tilak, Ghokale, Ranade, and others. The forefathers of our saint hailed from this district and belonged to Savantavadi, the capital town of the state by that name. The family surname was Tembe. Hari Bhatt Tembe, who lived in a village near Savantavadi, was the grandfather of our saint. Hari Bhatt was a pious man and learned in the Vedas according to the traditional scholarship existing in those times about 200 years ago. He was one of the leading priests of the area and was a great devotee of Lord Dattatreya and never missed the sacred reading of the holy book called Sri Guru Charitram, which even to this day is considered a work as holy and sacred as the Gita or the Bhagavata Puran. This work in Marathi is a running narration in blank verse or OVs of the life of Sri Pada Sri Vallabha and Narasimha Saraswati, the incarnations of Lord Dattatreya himself. Let it here be noted that the path of Datta Upasana has been the main mission of our saint, and he brought back many a lost souls to the track of spirituality. Many a prodigal son were, as it were, brought back to the home of our Father by graciously guiding the sinners on the path of devotion and faith in God, who was Bhagwan Dattatreya himself. The seed of his mission was sowed in the spiritual soil of the family by Hari Bhatt, his grandfather, who was a great devotee of Dattatreya. It has been a sad fact, commonly experienced even today, in this so called affluent society that spirituality and worldly success never go together. They seem to be incompatible. Hari Bhatt, though a Vedic scholar with high personal qualifications, was poor in the worldly sense of the term. He had therefore to shift his family in search of better livelihood from his native village, and he came to Managaon. And Managaon proved to be a turning point in the life of Hari Bhatt and his family, and this small village had the luck to be associated with the holy birth of the saintly hero of our story. When Hari Bhatt came to Managaon, he was warmly received by the local landlord by name Sri Konker, who had heard of Hari Bhatt's piety and learning. Their acquaintance grew into deep friendship and intimacy. It was a divine plan, as it were, that the two families, which were thus brought together, were later to be linked up with matrimonial relations. For Konker, the landlord, who was a widower, was persuaded by Hari Bhatt to accept the proposal for family alliance by getting his daughter married to Konker, and Konker complied with it. They were married, and soon this relationship was further sealed by a reciprocal proposal of Konker himself to get his daughter Rama wedded to Hari Bhatt's son Ganesh by name. Thus, the circle of relations became complete with a significant center for the story of our saint. Thus, Konkers and Tembes lived happily for some time in Managaon. The smooth and quiet course of life of the two interlinked families suddenly suffered a storm in the death of Konker. The event was a turning point in the life of Annapurna, Konker's wife, that is Hari Bhatt's daughter, and she entrusted Hari Bhatt, her father, with the management of her estate in Managaon. Hari Bhatt thus virtually became the landlord in Managaon. We have already mentioned above that Konker's daughter Rama was wedded to Ganesh, that is Hari Bhatt's son. Ganesh and Rama were fortunate to be linked with the life story of our saint, who was destined to be born as their son. The words destined to be born need here an explanatory note to reveal the mysterious background to the birth of our saint. The birth of such a son as Vasudevanand was not a mere accident in the life of Ganesh and Rama. It has a deep spiritual significance in the austere life of Ganesh Bhatt Tembe, who, though married to Rama, lived like an ascetic for 12 years away from her most of the time at a holy place, Ganagapur, the seat of Lord Dattatreya and Narsimha Saraswati, on the bank of river Krishna in Solapur district of Maharashtra. We have already referred to Hari Bhatt's devoted faith in Lord Dattatreya. Ganesh Bhatt, his son, had gone deeper into the spiritual practices and, as told above, had almost lived like a sannyasin for 12 long years at Ganagapur. He practiced meditations, went through continued recitations of the sacred Sri Guru Charitram, and constantly kept himself busy with the spiritual practices that he had voluntarily accepted to propitiate the Lord for emancipation from the snares of samsara, the bonds of the worldly life. The Lord was pleased with the penance of Ganesh Bhatt and blessed him and Rama also with his grace. The Lord visited Ganesh Bhatt in his dream and advised him to return home to resume the duties of the family life. It is indeed difficult to imagine the joy of his wife Rama must have felt on his return. Only a truly Indian wife or a sati alone can grasp the tender sentiments of the moment. Time passed happily after the reunion in the life of the couple, and soon they were blessed with the child. Verily, the Son of God was born to them. The grace of Lord Dattatreya was materialized in the form of the arrival of a son in their life. Thus, our saint was born as a son to Ganesh Bhatt Tembe and Rama in Shaka 1776 in Anand Samvatsar on the 5th day of the second fortnight of Shravana according to the Indian calendar, and the date that corresponds to is 13th August 1854 of the Christian era, and which was a Sunday. Ganesh Bhatt and Rama were greatly pleased at heart and were grateful to the Lord who had bestowed on them his grace through the birth of the son. The parents welcomed the event, of course, and were confident of the working of the divine hand in this great moment of their life. The promise of the Lord in the Gita was more than fulfilled. Their son, who was named Vasudev, was not a yoga brushed, but was yoga yukta, the very spark of the total divinity of Bhagwan Dattatreya. Jai Thembe Swami.